Can a Kendall Briles offense be efficient and function without the threat of a running quarterback? Josh Hoover has to tuck and run more this year, but I'll explain more next during Locked On Horned Frogs.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. We're brought to you today by Gametime. Gametime is where the game starts. If you need tickets on the secondary market, whether it's to a sporting event, comedy show, theater production, whatever it is, check out the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first order. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. Quick housekeeping note. I apologize for not the tech issues today, but just the different sound. I forgot my microphone at my house. I'm currently with my in-laws over Father's Day weekend and didn't grab the mic before I left. I'm also in a sewing studio right now, my mother-in-law's shop, doing this, so the lighting is what it is. I've made an effort to try to improve the tech experience over the past 6 months, but this episode is going to be a little different because of my location and just working with the equipment I have. All that being said, we're going to get to a lot of TCU athletics talk today. Baseball teams added a few players in the transfer portal, so we'll break that down. But we start today, we're talking about the TCU run game. Take a drink, everybody. The drinking game that I've been using this offseason where, once again, I'm discussing the run game, how it's going to affect TCU, where their offense stands if it doesn't improve. And I want to focus on Josh Hoover today. If there are two things that Josh can really improve on this offseason, and he's coming off a very successful year where he threw for 3,949 yards, 27 touchdowns, had 11 picks, 66% completion percentage, super productive season. But if there's two things that he can improve on, one is taking care of the ball better, limiting those turnovers, which he did a much better job of that in the back half of the season. The other thing is becoming more of a running threat or becoming more of a threat in the run game. That's not something he's comfortable with. It's not something that comes natural to him. And last season, there were times where even some of the basic zone read and RPO ball handling skills, he struggled with those. A few turnovers in the red zone, one against Utah, one against Stanford. That was simply botching the handoff or fake handoff at the mesh point and not being comfortable pulling the ball out of the running back's stomach, taking it around the end, and it resulted in a fumble and a recovery for the defense. Josh Hoover does not have to be Michael Vick, okay? He doesn't have to be Trayvon Boykin or even Andy Dalton. But he needs to show an ability to every once in a while pull that ball and run or tuck it down and run when there's openings in front of him. Through his first couple of years as a starter, he's been willing to work outside the pocket, but it's typically been, if he's moving outside the pocket, he's keeping his eyes downfield, and he's trying to make a play in a scramble drill through the air. He's attempting to give his wide receivers more time to win those one-on-one battles. And when we look at the offensive coordinator that TCU has right now, Kendall Briles, there's a belief amongst TCU fans that one reason we've had inconsistency on the offensive side of the ball through his 2 years as a play caller is because throughout his career, Kendall has had dual threat quarterbacks. He's thrived with guys that can both run and throw the ball. Josh Hoover has not been that player. So can Kendall call a successful offense? Can he be a good play caller without the threat of his quarterback being able to run? Well, I decided to look at it on a year-by-year basis. So he started as an OC his final 2 years at Baylor, both in 2015 and 2016. Seth Russell, good athlete. He rushed for 402 yards in 2015 and had 6 touchdowns. His long rush of the season was 46 yards. Then in 2016, Seth Russell, another successful year running the ball, 506 yards on the ground, 8 touchdowns, had a long rush of 50 yards. He then goes to Florida Atlantic. Jason Driscoll was his QB there. Again, not like 1,000 yards on the ground, but 84 carries for 427 yards, about 5 yards a carry, 8 touchdowns. So had a guy there that was successful, making things happen, moving the chain, scoring in the red zone. De'Aaron King at Houston in 2018. Obviously, he was a dual threat guy, 674 yards, 14 touchdowns, about 6 yards a carry. In 2019 at Florida State. Okay. Did not have much of a running threat at QB there. Actually, their starting quarterback was James Blackman, and he only had 41 yards rushing. Jordan Travis would come in from time to time. He had about 230 yards rushing and 10 yards a carry. So they did have a quarterback that could do it, similar to how TCU's Haas Haney last year, as specifically a guy that can run the ball. And then he moved on to Arkansas. His last 2 years at Arkansas, KJ Jefferson was fantastic running the ball. His first year, actually the full-time starter was Felipe Franks. And Felipe had 204 yards on 105 carries, about 2 yards a carry. So had a bunch of opportunities, didn't run the ball super effectively. Last season, Josh Hoover was just non-existent as a rushing threat. 47 carries for minus 19 yards. So when we talk about this potential issue, I think we have to look at it in a couple different ways. First off, I would say it's not just specific to this play caller. Like when we say, oh, Kendall Briles struggles if he doesn't have a dual threat QB, that's sort of a problem across college football right now. How many quarterbacks that are successful at the college level at the moment can you think of that don't have the ability to run the ball? How many NFL QBs? The game has changed in a big way. Having a rushing QB used to be a big advantage if you believed in giving them the opportunity to get out and run and not worrying about them getting injured. Because it was a rare thing, right? Now it's par for the course. I would say last season, the TCU coaching staff did a really good job of figuring out how to work around Josh's limitations with his feet. They use the screen game a lot, the short passing game. They had the package with Savion Williams that solved a lot of those ills. But even with his non-ability to run the football, they were able to work around it. This season, I've told you guys before, the running game has to improve. You need your running backs to be better. You need your O-line to be better. But something that could help that, again, I understand who Josh Hoover is. I'm not saying he needs to become a dude who's running the ball 15 times a game. He's not KJ Jefferson. But if he can get a good feel for, okay, 2nd and 5, I'm looking around. Suddenly I see there's a pathway for me. Just pull the ball down and go get a first down. Keep the chains moving. Or in the red zone, from time to time, if instead of handing the ball off to Jeremy Payne or Nate Palmer on that RPO or zone read play, pull that thing and go around the end yourself and surprise, the defense and score a touchdown, just so the defense at least has to start considering in their mind, okay, we're not facing a statue back there. This guy, if he has the opportunity, can make the plays. And I think Josh is athletic enough to do that. He wasn't a prolific runner at Rockwall Heath. He hasn't been in college, but I don't believe it's because of lack of athleticism. Now, I don't see him as a guy that's going to run past the defense and break off a huge run, but can he pick his spots and get 6 or 7 yards here and there, get some first downs, get some touchdowns in the red zone? Yeah, I absolutely think he can do that. But it's about him gaining the confidence to know, okay, here's when I can take off. Here's when I need to keep the defense honest. When everybody in the building thinks that I'm going to hand the ball to Nate Palmer, and instead I run around the left end and get a first down, that would be a huge step forward for TCU. Because another part about this is you don't have a Haas Haney on your roster this year. You've got Ken Seals, who's a pocket passer. Adam Schobel is a true freshman, which I like Adam, but he's an athletic player. I wouldn't really consider him a dual threat guy. He's another pocket passer. So you don't have that player that can come in and be in like a special package. You need a little bit of a threat from your quarterback. It helps even up the numbers in the run game. It'll make your pass game more successful too. Again, it doesn't have to be a night and day change. But just the ability to every once in a while pull the ball and get yardage on your own, that would be super beneficial for this offense. When we come back, Frogs add a big-time first baseman in the portal. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Before we do that, though, I do need to tell you about our friends at Gametime. I love the Gametime app. It's so easy to use. You jump in there, 2 or 3 clicks, and you have tickets. The tickets go straight to your phone. I use it during basketball season a lot, buying some TCU basketball tickets. They show you what the view is going to be from your seat when you sit down. You see a picture. There's no hidden fees. There's some fees, but they're upfront about them, which is all you can really ask for. NBA finals are going on right now. Wouldn't it be great to sit in the arena and watch your favorite team? You might say that's impossible. Listen, check out the Gametime app today. They have last-minute deals and offers going up right to tip-off. And with the Gametime guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that code is Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Give the Gametime app a try. All right, so we got some movement from TCU baseball in the transfer portal. What a strange season for the Frogs. I mean, some high moments, right? Some really good things from your young players, your freshmen, Sawyer Stroh-Snyder, Noah Franco. But inconsistencies, which you would expect with a young team. Some bad series losses, and then ending by not being able to win a Big 12 championship, tournament championship. Had that opportunity against Arizona. We're 3 outs away from winning that tourney, and Arizona ended up going to the College World Series. Now they lost 2 games and had to go home, but they were there. And then dropped your 2 games in the regional against USC and Oregon State and found yourself at home early. So I think this past year's team was good, but they had some pretty obvious flaws. One of those was not a ton of depth in your lineup. And with Carson Bowen moving on in the transfer portal himself, you suddenly had a big opening at first base where you needed somebody to come in and fill that spot. Well, they found their guy in the transfer portal from Incarnate Word, first baseman Rob Liddington. Last season, Jamie Plunkett had this right up. He hit .359, 15 home runs, and 50 RBIs, and was first team All-Southland Conference. My goodness, what a year. Super excited about this. This is the type of player they need. One thing, it just gives you an obvious, like, okay, you need a first baseman, you have a first baseman. Don't have to platoon somebody, don't have to shuffle people around and figure that out. You now know who your first baseman is. It's Rob Liddington. And then secondly, it gives you some more depth in your lineup, but this is a power bat. This team needed more pop. Aside from Stroh and Noah, they just didn't really – I mean, Chase Brunson could drive the ball to the ballpark, but you need more in the middle of that lineup. And this also gives you somebody that you can hit maybe in front of Noah Franco to give him some protection. A few years ago, they went and got Cole Fontenelle from MCC, who had a huge year on that Omaha team. And this feels kind of like that. Now, big expectations to live up to, but 15 homers, 50 RBIs, hit 360, had a really good OPS. That's a great addition for this team. Now maybe you can move Cole Kramer like to hitting second. They need a leadoff man. I'm not sure if that's going to be Colton Griffin or maybe Jack Bell. We'll see. But this is good news. This fits an immediate need. It gives you some more pop and power in that lineup. And I think it's a step in the right direction in building this team to where they need to be coming up next year. So this is a circle the name. I believe he'll be starting from day one, and he's going to be in the lineup just about every day at first base, probably hitting third or fourth, and getting opportunities to be a centerpiece of this team this upcoming season. A couple of other players that were at it. Left-handed pitcher Nolan Johnson from North Dakota. So Nolan was the Summit League Pitcher of the Year. His season numbers, a 4.52 ERA through 87 innings of work, struck out 79 over those 87 innings. Jamie Plunkett from 247 Sports also mentioned that he was a big key to the Bison's miraculous run in the Summit League tournament, where they won that tournament, ended up getting a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. And Nolan started against Kansas, a team that TCU is familiar with, and won that game for them, or was the winning pitcher that night. Across 16 starts, he had 6 quality starts and pitched in the 6th inning 9 times. So the numbers don't jump off the page. You know, an ERA of 4.5 is kind of concerning. But I think more than anything, this gives you more depth, more flexibility, and he's been a starter. So I think this is a dude that can compete for the Sunday starting job. You could also put him in the bullpen and see what he's got, see how, mentally he adjusts to that. And if you do, then you've got a guy in the pen that can go multiple innings, right? That can get through the batting order a couple times and feels confident about doing that because he's been a starter in the past and he knows what that entails. This is not like Tommy Laporte from last year. It's going to be a lockdown weekend starter coming in, but it gives you some more options on your pitching staff, which is ultimately what everybody's looking for, right? So Nolan Johnson, not sure what his role is going to be yet, but Summit League Pitcher of the Year, coming off a good season for the Bison. And then this actually happened a couple days ago, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it. Ethan Thomas from Hawaii, who appears to be a bullpen arm. He had 3 saves in 2025, 37 strikeouts across 25 innings of work. And watching, just a short kind of compilation of highlights, has a fastball that gets up to 94, 95. This team needs more power arms. One thing that they never really figured out last season was who their closer was. I mean, Braden Sloan was a guy that could go multiple innings and could essentially close out a game. Luis Rodriguez kind of fit that bill too, but both of those guys were long relievers, right? Caden Smith, Cade Eady, like they had their chances, but it was never clear going into the 9th inning, this is who your dude's going to be. I'm not saying Ethan Thomas is that guy, but he's a power arm that's had that experience in the past, and it at least gives you that option that, okay, we have somebody on the roster that if needed can come in and would be comfortable pitching in the late innings and is going to miss some bats, has some powerful stuff, can let that fastball get up there and ride, maybe get a little more velo out of him because he knows, like, I'm only going to be here for a couple innings at a time. An impressive season, though, last year. 37 strikeouts over 29 innings. That's good stuff. If he's able to control that and, throw with presence and throw with command, then I like the opportunities he's going to get here over the next year. So Rob Liddington, first baseman from Incarnate Word. I think that's an immediate starter. Nolan Johnson from North Dakota. I believe they'll just kind of have to see where he fits best, but potentially maybe a Sunday starter or a long relief guy in the bullpen, and then Ethan Thomas from Hawaii, who I think is going to be a power arm in the back end of that bullpen. When we come back, Desmond Bane on the move. I'll tell you where next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Don't forget, if you want to know more about the world of recruiting, the Portal Podcast, hosted by our very own Brian Smith, covers the transfer portal, covers high school recruiting. He does a really good job covering it nationwide. So check that out, the Portal Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I don't spend a lot of time on here talking about the NBA for obvious reasons, but I wanted to make you guys aware of this because the former Frog is on the move. The Memphis Grizzlies today, they traded Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic. Listen to this haul for Desmond Bane. The Magic sent back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, 4 first-round unprotected picks, and 1 first-round pick swap. Desmond Bane, 4 first-round unprotected picks, 1 pick swap, Cole Anthony, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So a few things here. First of all, congratulations to Desmond. The Magic were sneakily a pretty good team last year, and they're in win-now mode. They needed a shooter. Desmond is one of the best shooters in the NBA and is also a good defender and has become a really valuable player for the Grizzlies, but they got the chance to get a lot back for him here, and they went ahead and took that opportunity. This is a fantastic story for TCU basketball and for Desmond, just from the perspective of, I mean, when he was here, a great player, right? But my thought on Desmond in the NBA while he was at TCU was like, okay, hopefully he can find a place where he can be a spot-up shooter, and that's his role. And honestly, his first couple seasons as a Frog, that's what he did. He was a three-point shooter. Like, he was a dude that could catch and shoot, would work off, the dribble penetration from the other guards. But then his last season, which wasn't the most successful, like, for the program or for the team, he was outstanding. And he became, like, a legit, I'm the lead dog, I'm the star, I'm the guy that goes and gets buckets and can create off the bounce and do all those things. And so suddenly you saw, like, a new dimension to his game. He ends up being a second-round pick, lands with the Grizzlies, and just turns himself into one of the best players in the NBA. Like, that's not an exaggeration. This dude's really good. He's one of the more underrated players in the league. Now, I didn't expect the Grizzlies to get that much for him, but good for him. I hope it works out in Orlando, and I hope that there's going to be a lot of scrutiny around his game now because of just the value of what he got on the trade market. But a good opportunity to go play with a team in the East that is winning and is playing well and is young and has a chance to do some special things over the next few years. So wanted to throw that out there, make you aware of it. Desmond Bane on the move, headed to Orlando after spending his entire career so far as a pro in Memphis. Okay, so going back to Friday's show, G-Lo, he had this comment on YouTube. I'm calling for 6 wins for TCU football next season. Was optimistic with how he finished last season, but have a very tough schedule, both in conference and in preseason. We might be next season's Oklahoma State. Well, I hope you're wrong. I mean, it's a tough schedule, yeah. And UNC and SMU are going to tell us a lot about this team right off the bat. If they are who we think they are, they should win both those games. But I don't foresee 6-6. I think, honestly, if they go 6-6 and there's not a major injury, then we're having some serious conversations about this coaching staff and where they are and where they stand moving forward. But one thing to remember, too, on paper, this looks like a really difficult schedule in the Big 12. But you never really know. I mean, we'll see. Colorado's replacing a lot. Iowa State's replacing a lot. Baylor's replacing a few guys. Yeah, they got their quarterback and running back coming back, but there's a lot of that team that they're missing now. BYU's replacing a few players. So, and I think with the Big 12 being so parity-driven now, it really is a year-to-year proposition. But I don't foresee 6-6. I think they're going to be a better team than that. We'll be back Wednesday. It's Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, or you can find us wherever you get your podcast.